Good afternoon, everyone. This is Akio Tanaka from Infinity Ventures. So we have a very long, convoluted title, but actually, one thing I need to do now is just forget what it says on the title, because I had an interesting talk with the co-founders of M-DAQ, Richard and Noboru here, and I'm a VC here, and met with a lot of tough founders, really, tough startup cookies, but I think today I found the toughest one I've ever met in the last 20 years of investing. So I think today, beyond the title you just saw, I think we get to hear actually a very inspirational story of what happens to two co-founders who come from two different countries, but they actually managed to go through, two death valleys, I think that's how they call it, and actually survive and actually create a very vibrant business, and that's growing, and hopefully we'll hear more big news coming from them in the future. But so today, it's really about the journey that Richard and Noboru took in the past decade to bring this company in the fintech space. And they started during the time there was no fintech, the word fintech around. I think we are very privileged today here to listen to their story. So let me start with maybe Richard for a quick introduction. Please introduce us who you are, and also maybe one of you can tell us in the simplest word for people like me who's not too technical what actually M-DAQ does.
Thank you, Akio. M-DAQ is a company that's been around for nearly 9 years. That's considered quite old by startup standards. Today we have about 55 employees. 90% are based in Singapore, about 10% are based in China. And we were doing fintech a little bit before when this term became popular. And these days, I think everyone tries to do a link to fintech in order to increase your valuation.
Really?
And now, what M-DAQ does is actually in our slogan. We're trying to create a world without currency borders. Because everything that we do, whether it's international trade, online, offline, travel, even remittances, payments, you need to cross the border, and foreign exchange is always a big problem. So this is something we're trying to resolve.
So you're trying to make this foreign exchange basically transparent and frictionless.
That's right, yes. And myself, employee 001 and Noboru 002, between us, we have worked in JP Morgan for 30 years, 30, together, and we have known each other for almost 20 years. In fact, the first time we met each other was in New York. We flew all the way from Tokyo, Singapore, to meet each other in New York.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think it was back in 1999. Yeah, you're right. You have a good memory, huh? And then we were working together for the Asia Pacific region for the business, and then he eventually moved to another bank, but I didn't follow him. He wanted me to, but I said no. That's not interesting enough to me. So the motivation was not there. But then he decided to go independent. And then that time it was about M-DAQ, so it was quite interesting to me.
You can put on the first slide.
Yeah, can we have 最初のスライドを出してください. This one?
English, I guess. 1ページ戻っていただけますか?
I think you can control it now, Richard. You have the clicker.
Yeah. So this slide above is actually on our website. Some comments that we received was that, well, this company is quite transparent. It tells everybody about the ups and the downs and all the major investors that we turned down, that they turned us down. Everything's all up there. So,
by the way, you don't have to actually take a photo of this. You can go to M-DAQ website, the whole thing there. And just my quick comment is, I wasn't sure because I didn't really know who Richard Noboru was and what to talk about. But after I saw this slide, it was very easy. Wow, these guys had a great journey, and we have to talk about what they went through. So, Richard, you have a couple of near-death moments here. So maybe for people in the audience, just to explain to us what this is, and maybe share with some of the stories of what you actually went through at each phases of the company.
I think the very most difficult part was to attract your founding team. And with that, I'm privileged to have Noboru, who is maybe not a typical Japanese, because a typical Japanese, I was told that they never leave the country. But for him, he was willing to resettle in Singapore on the prospect of no salary, no promises, nothing.
Actually, how does that happen? Because I thought the bankers are very greedy people. They would not do anything for free. So what happened here? You guys are both ex-JP Morgan.
Before,
Sorry if there's anybody from JP Morgan. I didn't mean to offend you, but I think it's true. In general.
Yeah, before we started the company, I think it was back in 2009, October, if I'm not wrong. So he wanted to see me and talk about his business idea. So I flew into Singapore. But at that time, I had really actually no time. I was busy with the bank, so I did just a day trip there. And then he just told me 2 sentences. So Richard told me, so Noboru, I want to change the world. I want to create the world without currencies. That's it. Then, really shocking to me.
Sounds like something a Bitcoin founder might say, but that's what he said.
Yeah, and of course, after that, he told me many of the details, his business plan and stuff like that. But before listening to his details, I just bought in his dream. So on that moment, after hearing these 2 sentences, his dream became my dream immediately.
But at the time, Noboru was going through a hard time. Firstly, he was doing very well in JP Morgan. He was there for...
I'm sure you guys are making very good salary then, right?
Not bad. But he was there for 19 and a half years. And I was told that the pension system such that when you are 20 years and more, the rate is higher. So he was just 6 months or 4 months short of the 20th year. And he has only worked for one bank, JP Morgan, almost 20 years. So when I told him to join me by quitting his job, sell his house, empty his bank account, and then fly on his own course to Singapore, and he said, when?
Wow.
When I'm going to do it. So, and later on, I found out that it was a personal thing that he's being the only son in the family. And at the time, his father was terminal, meaning terminally ill. And at the time, quitting a job may be difficult. Selling everything to move to Singapore to do a startup may be even harder. But to leave behind a parent that is very sick is probably very hard.
That's very un-Japanese,
Yes. So I kind of asked him, like, why do you, because he basically said he doesn't want to be in his 50s, look back when he's in his 30s, and regret that he was afraid of jumping in, right?
Hey,
And
Richard, you said there was something that Jeff Bezos said called what?
Yes, I think it was much later on that I read about what Jeff Bezos at Amazon said. He said that this is something called regret minimization framework. Regret minimization framework.
So what does that mean?
Because in life, if you do something that is wrong and you regret, you can always undo. Just stop doing it. Walk away. But in life, if you didn't do something, you will never ever know whether what would have happened if you had done it. You will live the whole life looking back at that moment 10, 20, 30 years ago and say, if I had done that, would my life be different? Would the world be different? I would never know. So that kind of a regret is something that we will bring to our grave and we will never find out. So we have this motto that we will try everything at least once, maybe twice, maybe even 3 times before we give up.
Hey, by the way, so everyone, I think if you take anything away from Tech in Asia this time, I think this is one of the key phrases you should take home. So you just remember that 2 great guys from Singapore, company called M-DAQ, they said something called regret minimization framework. Of course,
Jeff
Bezos. They quoted Jeff
he said
Bezos
it.
to say this. And I think it's a great concept, especially for some of you who are maybe in between careers or maybe trying to do a startup, wondering whether you should take on that journey or not. I think if you listen to these 2 gentlemen here, I think the answer is quite clear.
What is also interesting is in our top team of the top 10 person in the company, the leadership team, I would say more than half, they followed this same framework. Because many of them, I did the same thing. I say, you are based from overseas. Can you redeem your miles and redeem your points for hotel and fly to Singapore and meet us and we talk about what we want to do? And very strangely, they all say yes, right? And then another 1/3
Wow, that's weird because usually we have to pay candidates to come to see you, but you basically, they paid their own way to see you.
Yes. And the other 1/3, they wrote in cold, meaning they've somehow found my email, and one of them said it was page 10 of the Google search. And they wrote in and say, look, I'm a managing director in an investment bank. I've been doing this for 15, 20 years, and I want to quit my job and join you. And I said, sure, are you happy with 1/10 of your salary, meaning 10%? They said, thank you very much, and they took the job.
Really?
Yes, and they have 3 of those people.
Wow.
So, so I think it encourages us when people are willing to pursue their dream, because they know that there is no downside. If it doesn't work out really, get back to doing what you were always doing. But if this thing really works out and you can make an impact, then you have done the right thing.
So Richard, by the way, so going back to your slide here, you have like 2 deep valleys. And since we have a limited time, maybe you can just explain to us a couple of near-death experiences you had here and how you actually survived. I think that's a great lesson for all of us.
So in 2012, we were on the verge of doing our Series B round. And we were having it with 2 large entities. One was Citibank, the other one was Australian Stock Exchange. And being 2 large companies, they have more lawyers than our staff strength. And the 2 teams couldn't agree on a lot of terms.
They were co-leads?
They were co-leads, that's right. And unfortunately, at the time, we didn't learn and we didn't know. In our term sheet, we had a no shop. So we are unable to find any replacement funding source. We had to just either do this or die. And they keep promising us that every month, we just need 1 more month of extension, and we'll get the deal closed. So by the time they drag us through, we started by saying, myself and Noburu, we cut our pay by half. We cut our pay to 100%, maybe 100% to 0, then goes down to the management team, and we're running on fumes. So by dragging us for another 4 months, the company could only make 1 last payroll in October 2012. And at that point, we make a decision that we will go into hibernation mode. We do not want to owe anybody anything. So we still pay the last payroll. We didn't owe any of our staff. But we told them that this is a ship that's going to sink, and we will sink with the ship. But those who want to stay on, you are staying on your own free will.
So what does it mean when you put company on hibernation mode? You guys all sleep every day, do nothing?
We continue to do our job, except that we don't pay a salary.
Basically, work for free.
We work for free. And this is actually tough because when you first bootstrap at the early part of your startup, everybody is full of hopes that one day they'll get funding, seed funding, pre-A, A, B, C, and you get all the way up there. But when you have gone through part of it and then you went down all the way to 0, many will have given up because to them, re-bootstrapping is just unheard of.
So I think most of us probably quit that point. So what kept you guys going?
People like my co-founder here, because he never gave up. He just sent his family from Singapore back to Japan and say, stay with your
before
parents.
That, you sold your house, right?
Oh.
You sold your house.
I mean, I sold my house and I let him stay at my home in Singapore. So we just try to sell everything that we can sell, and we move in together, and we try to make ends meet. And more than, I think, a dozen of our core employees all decided to stay back. So that gave us the encouragement that there's something there. And there's always this thing called air miles and points. We redeem those to do our business development. So we try to keep cash burn to a minimum. That's right.
And to me, at that time, my feeling was, at least what we are doing was not really successful yet. Financially, it was quite bad. However, my dream, our dream was still there. So there's no reason for me to give up my dream. If the dream was really bad, it's proven to be bad, and that's the end. I think we should have stopped. But at that time, it's just some unfortunate things happened. But we were still believing in our dream, what we are doing. So.
But the good news is after the B round didn't happen, Citi didn't come in. Eventually, we do a real B round, and Citi still came in because they still like the company at about 2 times higher than what they used to want to pay. So we managed to do a B round. We did a C round. That was almost 3 years ago. And we have actually turned profitable since April this year.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
Thank you very much. So
Actually, so looking at this, and so you had this near-death moment, but in a few years later, you're actually back to valuation of 365 million Sing dollars.
That was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wow. That's actually quite a recovery.
In fact, Tech in Asia made a report in July 2016. They say Alibaba invested in a startup in Singapore and no one knew about it.
How come no one knew?
Because we were very low-key. We are generally media shy. So you don't see either of us attending many conferences, and certainly we try not to speak at any panel. So this is one of the rare ones that we thought we should want to share with you. So we are quite shy. Yeah.
Well, thank
No,
you for
Richard
sharing your
loves
story.
Japanese food. He wanted a reason to be here.
Ah, okay.
That was the real reason, actually.
Okay, that worked.
So to kind of show you some pictures of how we went through, I'll just quickly run through a few of the slides.
Yeah, let's see it.
This was our first office. Like any startup, when you want to employ your first few employees, they will get very scared if there's nobody in the office. So we bought a lot of monitors, pretending that there's a lot of people, but the monitors are not connected to any PC. It's a bit like going to IKEA.
They're
there's
just
a fake
decoration.
monitor. It's a decoration. And we've got to move the monitor twice to take a picture and cross them together to look like there's a lot of desks and...
So there's actually young Richard doing something over there. What is that?
Oh, I'm just trying to fix up our local area network. So everything you got to do.
So you are also
hands-on.
a network engineer.
Yes. Although I'm an accountant by training, but IT is my first love. And later on, we moved to a slightly larger office. And Noboru here, he's doing the Spider-Man thing. He's the window cleaner, and I'm the carpenter. And after that, this is our Valley of Death. We
This is the
shrink.
first one or the second?
This
First
is the
valley?
first big one, that's right. So we had to move into an area that is like half a warehouse, and then we squeeze everybody in. As you can see, Noboru's face, he didn't have time to shave. He doesn't look very happy at
Doesn't
all.
look very happy at all.
And all the boxes
there
are...
are no visitors to the office, so I was really like at home.
So nobody came here.
And during this time, we decided, 2011, we both got married at the same time, but not to each other. That was a joke at the time. We always tell our business partners, oh, we're going to get married soon. And they all got very concerned. I wasn't sure why.
You guys are living together. And
So we got married 1 month apart, 2011. And over the last few years, while still building the business and going through the roller coaster, we were quite productive on the family front. I have 4 kids, he had 2. Together we have 6.
So was it easy doing it at the same time?
I think family support is very important. So you must have your family and your spouse who understands what you're trying to do, and they must be there for you. Yeah, because milk powder and diapers are not cheap.
Yeah, especially in Singapore.
And this was our people in 2011. Our people in 2012. In 13, this is where we ran out of funds.
This is a second Death Valley.
Yes, and this is all that we have. 1 table shared by 12 people. We grew a little bit more, 14, 2015, 16, 17. This is our official opening of our number 6 office, 2018. Wow. Yeah, so this was the last slide.
So what's the current head count here?
55.
55.
Yes.
Wow, what a journey. So if you were like be able to get back on time machine, go back to your second Death Valley, and if you were to just basically give advice to yourself from 2012, what would you tell him now?
I think cash flow is very important. As entrepreneurs, we tend to assume that the burn is half of what is real. We always assume we will burn less. And we always assume that money can last twice as long. So these are all the mistakes that we have gone through.
Yeah,
And
keep raising funds.
Yes. Yeah. Because you don't wait until you are 3 months of runway left and you raise fund. Because the VCs will not give you a very good term sheet. So you raise it when you have money. You don't raise it when you need money.
But also no shop clause actually really hurt you guys.
Absolutely, that's right. So never sign a no shop clause. Because no shop means that they can decide whether to invest or close the deal, but you have no one else to turn to. And I think these are the key messages that we have. But at the same time, we believe that those who truly believe in what we're trying to do ultimately will still come back. So even though we did turn down some of the term sheets, eventually they all came back in the later round in a much more fair and favorable terms to the company. So do not be afraid that once you have walked away from the deal, that's it. Sometimes, as long as you put it down nicely, and you're honorable and you are sincere, they can still come back. If you are good or if they believe in what you're doing, there's no reason why they won't come back again.
So Richard, speaking a little bit more on the business side, I actually did read the news on Tech in Asia that you guys actually received funding from Alibaba. And I know Ali and Tencent, all those big Chinese internet companies are now heavily betting on Southeast Asia as well. But in your case, you actually have some special relationship with Ali. So can you tell me a little bit about what the investment was about, and what is the nature of business you do with Alibaba Group?
Like part of our key vision to create a world without currency borders, when companies like Ali trying to expand overseas, essentially China merchant through Taobao selling to the rest of the world, they do need a solution. Now, the solution prior to us creating it 3 years ago was not very elegant, meaning to say if today you go to a foreign website, the foreign website will either charge you or quote you the prices in their currency or US dollar. But US dollar is not local to many people unless you live in the US. So for say a Japanese buyer, you'll be using your local credit card to do the currency conversion. The problem with that is twofold. Number one is, credit cards will typically charge you something like 4 to sometimes 6% of foreign exchange conversion. That's not the bad part. The bad part is uncertainty. Because if you buy something online today in a different currency, you only know the actual amount you're paying tomorrow. But ask yourself, would you go to a shop today? Let's say you go to a Family Mart, right? And you pick up a can of royal milk tea. And they say sold, but I'll let you know the price tomorrow. You won't buy it. You want to know the price now. But yet today in the online world, many of us, when we do cross-border purchase, we subject ourselves to the uncertainty. So we created a solution whereby we could guarantee the price for the customer for up to even 90 days or in terms of refund.
So whatever you get quoted is actually the price you pay?
What you see is what you get. In any currency in the world, it will be local to everybody.
But do people have to then pay 6% whatever fee for that privilege?
This is a very interesting question. We compressed the spread from uncertain 4 to 6% down to 1.5, and we actually write a check to the e-commerce platform 1%. So what they have done was they have created customer satisfaction with price certainty, and they now receive a 1% risk-free brand new revenue on GMV, basically on sales. So it's like a win-win-win.
So 1% is provided by you guys?
We pay Ali 1%.
So how do you make money?
We keep the 0.5%, but we run an entire risk book based on AI and big data. And this AI big data is a bit different. See, if everybody tells you that I know what is the foreign exchange rate tomorrow, he is gambler, because nobody really knows for sure. You can read all the economic data and you can do the modeling, and only half the time you get it right, the other half the time you get it wrong. Maybe you are really lucky and good 60, 70% of the time. You still get it wrong 30, 40%. So what we do is we don't look at the market. We look at big data in terms of the demand. So if I know that, say, a country like Sweden, what is the aggregate demand for products on this platform? If I can guess that correctly by using data and AI, then I'm able to hedge the position before I even give you the guarantee. So this is the way that we look the other way, whereas every bank, every hedge fund is looking the usual way. So this is how we try to re-engineer the business.
So are you working with pretty much all the major currencies in the world today?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are represented by, in fact, we are not even a competitor to banks. The world's top 10, 12 foreign exchange banks are our partners. So together we can access liquidity that represents about 75-80% of the global FX liquidity. So we are a single source of liquidity that's out there.
So I don't know if you're able to tell us about what scale of business are you doing with Alibaba today?
I wouldn't say what I'm doing with them, but this year we are probably going to close this year at about $5 billion worth of business.
That's foreign transactions?
Foreign transaction, that's right.
Wow. It's amazing. From a company almost died twice. So we have, let me just do a quick time check. We have about 4.5 minutes left. And I think the two founders here, I think they're actually okay to take questions from the audience. So let me actually see if anybody in the audience has questions for Richard and Noboru. If so, we'll take questions. If not, we'll continue with our conversations here. So, gentleman up front, I think we have a microphone coming. So, please introduce yourself first and ask our guests whatever questions you have.
I'm Pascal from Fractal Ventures. A very simple question. How did you come up with the idea, the dream, what generated the dream inside of you?
The idea came out in 2001, so about 18 years back. When I first joined banking from accounting, I was quite shocked because they said they pay me a bonus, so it was a pretty big bonus. Then they took 30% of my money away, and then they reinvest in restricted stock unit of the bank. So it's called RSU. And then they vest over 3 years. So that was something very foreign to me at the time. And I was just thinking that how can I know what is my net worth every day? Because the bank stock is in US dollar, I'm in Singapore, my whole mind is only thinking in Singapore dollar terms. So if Singapore dollar strengthened, that's bad news because that means my US asset has gone down. So what if the share price went up, but it must go up by enough to cover the FX loss? So I used my Reuters screen in my daily work, because I work in the front office in the dealing room. I just I create a little app to make these two multiply. So I can see JP Morgan US stock in Singapore dollar. And from there, every day, every second, I can look at the money and say, this is my GTH money. GTH means go to somewhere. So if I don't like my job, I can tell my boss GTH. And this is the amount that I will lose, right? So, and that's very important because everything that we do, there must be a line. You must draw a line beyond which you don't sell your soul, you don't sell your honesty. You know, things must be fun, must be impactful. And there's, of course, this part that is going to hold you back. So I need to know at what point is that worth more than this. So, and that was the basic idea that came up.
And how that actually became the dream then?
Because actually when I was 14 years old, by the way, we are same age, right? And when I was 14 years old, I did my first startup. That was long, long time ago, 30 plus years. 1-4.
Wow.
That's right. And it failed. And then I did very badly in school because everyone was studying for their school exam and I was doing a startup company. So it has been really my wish that one day when I've gone through all this corporate life, university and everything, I could come back and fulfill my first love, which is technology, and to do something that's impactful. Right? And I guess I would say maybe it's better that he said it, but during the banking days, I'm pretty much like an entrepreneur, right? So at the time, e-commerce was not something that's mainstream. We had to fight our battle every day with traders and sales who always wanted to get rid of us.
Yeah, you are very creative. You're very innovative all the time, and all of his ideas are basically. It's hard to realize if you belong to one enterprise community. So you have to go outside anyway. Yeah.
So did you guys see how these two
very
co-founders
inspirational? Thank you so much.
Yeah. Did you see how those two co-founders are staring at each other? I think they're actually stronger than married couple. Now, with that, the nice stare, I think our time is almost over. So maybe, Richard, Noboru, maybe you guys can give us short, just one sentence advice to all those tech founders and investors here, well, people who want to do something different, something new. Please give you one word of advice.
I would say quick one. If you have a dream, just go for it. But ideally, find someone who can really trust. Because when you're going down, if you have a partner to face the challenge, try to overcome, that will be much stronger. I mean, if you imagine if you're going through the same journey alone, it's really hard to break it through. So find a good partner.
Richard?
This is not original code. I think I saw it on a TIA blog as well. I was reading it. every day, and they didn't pay me to say this. But I thought this was quite interesting. It says that fundraising is not about trying to convince a skeptic, but it's about finding true believers.
That's a nice quote.
Many of us spend too much time trying to convince a VC or an employee or a business partner who is clearly a skeptic, and you're spending too much time trying to convince him or her to believe in what you do. You're better off finding the true believers who want to walk the journey with you, and everything will be fine. And thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. And I think our time is up, so everyone here, please give them a big round of applause. Thank you.